Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist/secular/awesome community. This is episode number 158. The interview was recorded live on August 26, 2018. Thanks to last week's guest, Mandisa Thomas. If you are in the Atlanta area over Labor Day weekend, you can go to a college football game, attend the largest independent book festival in the country, at which I will moderate a science fiction panel this Sunday at noon, or you can go to Dragon Con and see guys dressed like sexy stormtroopers and meet up with Mandisa's Black Non-Believer crew. Tonight, or this week, I bring on a co-host of Utah Outcasts and the second person from Utah I've interviewed who never was in the Mormon Church, Felicia Entwistle. This is the only podcast in human recorded history to ask about the James Damore Google Memo/Manifesto and suggest an atheist twerk off. We also do not give John McCain a fawning send-off because we live in the real world.
Hey, if you want me to take a dump in a box and mark it guaranteed, I will. I got spare time.
Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast, Felicia Entwistle.
Hi! Wait, thanks for having me.
Okay, we got to do the beverage as the show starts. Now, we have a fellow Game of Thrones fan on, so I'd like to say this is special, but I seem to be drinking this every show. Dragon's Milk, very, very quality barrel-aged stout.
I love stouts.
It's available year-round. It's like the only one I know that's, most of them are seasonal, but this is, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Michigan beers are good.
I'll take a look for it next time I'm in the liquor store, because any beer like that, we have to get at a liquor store. The state-owned liquor store.
Correct. Yes, every state is different, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. But I'll take a look for it. I like stouts a lot.
But what do you have on your side? What are you drinking?
I got Pendleton. It's a Canadian whiskey. And so it's, yeah, I know it's the big bottle, but it was on sale. So.
Serious person.
I know. Well, I didn't have to worry about like hitting the liquor store for a while because of that big bottle. So, and I can't buy liquor on Sundays. So big bottle, lots of time.
Okay, so Utah, because they changed the law in Georgia. They couldn't just say you can buy alcohol on Sunday. They had to make it a local, like you had to vote for it. And it's still 12:30 here in Georgia, or at least in Atlanta, Georgia. You know, I bet other counties are different, but at least it's a little bit loosened up here.
Well, that's good.
That's something. Now, I have out of context quotes to start, but they aren't, I don't know how out of context they are, but let's just go ahead. So we'll start. Here's the first one. My white privilege means I can say, get the fuck out of here.
Is that me? Is that a thing I've said?
Yes.
That would be me and friend in the bar when he came up and asked us, "Hey, I'm not racist, but can I ask you a question?" And my black friend had to be nice. Friend Jay Whitaker, local comedian, actor. He has to be, and podcaster. You can check out his show, Vocal Minority Podcast. Oh, the very vocal minority. And so this guy walks up to us. We're just hanging out in the bar playing pool. And I'd just been telling him a story about another black friend of mine getting basically the same thing, where white guys in Utah will walk up to him and be like, "Hey, I'm not racist, but can I ask you a question?" And then not 5 minutes later, a white guy walked up to us and went, "Hey, I'm not racist, but can I ask you a question?" And so a lot of times, at least my black friends have said that they can't really get angry and they can't really address these things because black men are going to be seen as a threat. Black women are going to be just seen as another angry black woman. And it's hard for them. So my white privilege lets me tell him to get the fuck out of here because I can get angry and I can be an asshole to him. So, and he left.
Yeah, that's one of those. I think you talked about it on the show for like 20 minutes. Like, I'm not this, but is automatically like, yeah, you are that.
Yep.
Thank you for clearing it up for us. Okay, so second out of context quote, this memo is shitty. I think that's the James Damore Google.
Oh.
So you're on Serious Inquiries Only.
Yeah.
Of course, it'll be linked in the show. And and I was like, damn, that was a year ago. Like almost exactly.
Yeah, it was a while ago
when it happened. And I listened to the show at the time, and I had to listen to it again to get a lot of the details. But that was, it was a good episode.
Thank you. It was a lot of his information was really cherry picked, and it was really slanted to what his own narrative he wanted it to be. He did a lot of correlation causation fallacy. He made a lot of assumptions, and he made a lot of claims that didn't have any even underlying studies, but he tied them to other things. Sometimes it wasn't even what he said. It was a lot of fun. That was a shitty memo.
And the last one, making broad generalizations is generally going to be incorrect.
That's a good one.
Generally
going to be incorrect.
Now, first of all, where are you located?
I'm in Salt Lake, Utah. Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake City. Yep.
So you get to speak for a Utah outcast. So I know that my show, because Zachrilege cast, no other Z atheist podcast as far as I can tell, but I think Utah Outcast might corner the market for the U.
Probably.
So 211 episodes, and you've probably recorded more. So have you been with the show since it started?
Yeah, I actually was. It's a fun story. So I'd actually just gotten out of my shitty marriage, and I was looking to start my own YouTube channel. And at the time, X, he posted in an atheist Facebook group where no longer any of us are in anymore. But he posted that he wanted to start a podcast, and he wanted to know what kind of podcast people listen to. So I commented, and then I saw an opportunity, and I messaged him. I said, "Hey, I've always wanted to do a podcast. Could I maybe join?" And he said yes. So we'd actually recorded several episodes. Nobody needs to go listen to him. It's fine. But before we'd even met in person. So now we're really close friends.
Because I see 211 episodes, so you've been at it for a while. Like, when did it start? I mean, it seems like it's been a long time.
It's over 3 years now. I think we're close to 3.5 years we've been doing the show.
So it's YouTube, a beautiful, like, atheist podcast, like the 2014, 2015 time. That's when, like, a lot of shows got off the ground.
Yeah. I think we're just now really getting off the ground, honestly. But we also go to YouTube and stuff. And with that, we haven't been doing as long. And it's bullshit because now I can't record topless.
There's a difference when there's video involved, I guess.
When it's going on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's when YouTube won't let female nipples on. So, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
my nipples are offensive.
True. See, there's a great out of context, in context, whatever quote. At some point during the episode, when I feel it is appropriate, I might throw in some like feminism 101 type questions.
Okay.
I feel like you, of all people, will be ready to answer that sort of thing. But let's stick with the Utah Outcast thing. What is kind of the elevator pitch? What is Utah Outcast? What's it all about? So it's 3 good atheist friends who want to talk politics, pop culture, and that's about it. Pop culture. Yeah. Okay. So it's all the things. We just talk about what's going on around us in the world. We really like to talk about anti-fascist ideas and far left politics. We're all a bunch of anti-capitalist assholes. I don't know. And we just honestly, we get together, we drink over Skype, and we have a really good time. We get shouty and ranty. Sometimes one of us will get way too drunk. But mostly it's a show where we felt like we needed to add something to the discourse. And so we do. It's a way for us to do something to add to the ideas being spread. And we pride ourselves on trying to have more diverse guests and using our platform to platform people who are often not platformed, like people of color, non-cis people, non-hetero people, even though 2 out of 3 of us are not hetero. And the one is only hetero-ish, so. Hetero-ish. Yeah, that's a good term. That's one to use. So what's the normal, so is it a weekly show, and what's the usual length of it?
Uncut show for top patrons, I think it's $5 a month, is usually 3 to 4 hours of content. Pared down, it's about an hour and a half per show.
Patrons, I actually do a shorter show for you. No, I'm just kidding.
We always go long. Again, we're good friends who just like hanging out and drinking and talking about things we care about. So it goes long, and we have a good time doing it.
I think I already got this one answered, but I like asking it anyway. So do you recommend drinking during listening to the show, and does drinking happen as you record?
Yeah, the drinking happens during recording. And I only encourage drinking during the show if you're not at work or driving.
Yeah, I like
but
to
then
do
it's
that as well.
Required.
That's a caveat. It's a nice caveat to have.
Yeah. Don't drink and drive, and don't drink at work. That's not really that's just my advice, honestly, on the work one. It's not a requirement.
So do you have, over the course of this show, some guests you've had on that you really are proud of having on, and people that you've really enjoyed having and are not embarrassed because they've had bad issues happen since you've had them on? So that happens a few times.
Marissa Alexa McCool of the Cis Are Getting Out of Hand and Inciting Incident podcast. I am, in fact, the only cis person to ever go on the Cis is Getting Out of Hand. So she's been on our show a few times. She's a delight. Alex Jules, formerly of Dogma Debate. He's wonderful. I chit-chat with him pretty regularly. And so he's always fun to have on. And I don't think he's capable of embarrassing me at this point. I just think he's a really legitimate person, really good person. Honestly, I'm pretty proud of most of our guests. I don't think we've had one that I've been like, ew. Kerry Jackson, he's a local radio host here. He's been on our show twice. He invites us over to his very nerdy basement. I mean, it is decked out in just all of the nerd memorabilia you could possibly want. He has his own show, Geek Show Podcast. He's had us over at his place to record an interview a couple of times, and he's a delight. I think we've been really fortunate in kind of giving a good read to people, and really proud of a lot of the guests we've had on.
But do you have some guests that you're dream guests for the future that you want to have on?
Yeah. Oh my God. I guess my number one dream guest would be Peter Coffin, the YouTuber. Oh, yeah. He convinced me I was no longer an anti-capitalist. Natalie Wynn of ContraPoints. She's another one. They're too big for us. They're amazing. Oh, sorry, Peter. I'm working on it. I used their wrong pronoun. I'm sorry. But between the two of them, they're fantastic YouTubers. They're really wonderful content. Their essays are fabulous. Let's see. Lindsay Ellis, I really like her. Oh, there's a new one. She's a Black pagan YouTuber, and I'm forgetting her name now, but she's really quite good as well. She just did one on fascism and the occult. It was just fascinating. So, no.
Yeah, those two are connected more than people realize.
I know, it's bizarre. And she's a pagan, so but she really, really goes into it. It's really fascinating.
Well, since Shay from Waiting for Wrath has wimped out, do you have a dream atheist content creator to do a twerk off against?
Oh, yeah, Tom from Cognitive Dissonance, because his wife's a pole sister. She's a pole dancer like me, and I would he probably wouldn't even wimp out. It would be great. I would love to twerk off with him. Little shorts and everything.
He's done some of the routines too. That's one of the worst kept secrets in atheist podcasting. Tom and Cecil are big. Oh, we're fat guys. I'm like, no, you're not.
They're not. Yeah, they're both in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
They make themselves sound huge, and it's like, nope, they're in good shape. So yeah, they're fun. I would love to meet them. I've met all of the skating guys. They're wonderful.
They came out. Weren't they in Salt Lake City? Did
yeah,
a show out there?
About a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago. I know.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's all a year ago.
But they've been there.
They have. And Eli remembered me from my Serious Inquiries Only episode. He was like, "You're Felicia and Entwistle."
and.
He's like, "Yeah." So that was fun. That he recognized me too. That was fun. So let's see. Thomas Smith's been on the show, and so is Andrew Torres of Opening Arguments, and Thomas Smith of all the podcasts. Mm-hmm. Those are I'd like to consider those guys both internet friends. So just a lot of really cool people I've met through doing it.
So based on your episode of Serious Inquiries Only, and people should check that one out, why did you want to talk about the infamous James Damore, I guess you pronounce it, Manifesto?
Well, it actually started from a conversation with Thomas and I. And I was kind of going over like all the things that were wrong with it. He's like, "You want to do a show about this?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." So I did quite a bit of research on it and tried to find the information behind what he was actually trying to say. Because with a lot of these things, a lot of biggity things, there's a smidgen of truth. There's a little background truth in there somewhere. So I wanted to find where he was getting his information, why he would say these things, and kind of go through point by point where it went wrong. But it wasn't just point by point. It turned into, it's more of a, all these pieces together make it wrong. It's not just that this was wrong or this was wrong or this was wrong. It was more the overall conclusion he reached from all these things that really ended up being quite twisted. So I consider myself a feminist. I consider myself pretty well educated in feminism. I consider myself an intersectional feminist. I felt like I could be a good foil to his subtle bigotry. And, you know, he used autism as an excuse later. Like, it needs to be said that he doesn't own what autism is, and autism isn't bigotry. And I know a lot of people on the spectrum who really were offended that he would even use that as an excuse. So I wanted to do something. I don't know. Somebody say something.
I almost feel like, could you just use the being a white guy excuse? Sure, I'm a white guy. I don't know what it's like to be. I'm on top. Like, I'm on third base, so I hit a triple kind of deal.
Yeah, well, you see, I'm the default, and everyone else is different from me, so I can do all the things, except for the nasty girly things, like periods and sewing.
So what would a female manifesto sound like? I feel like when it comes to manifestos, it seems to just be a male and white male kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out. I am problematic.
That's okay. All good art is. I don't know that I could answer that. I would think that if we were going to have someone really write a manifesto of what feminism is and needs to be, it needs to come from a non-white woman, most probably Black, or Native American, because those are the two most oppressed groups here in the United States, at the very least. I don't know that there's a worldwide feminist manifesto. I think that women in different areas know what their empowerment's going to look like and how they're going to get there. And there's people like Bell Hooks and N.K. Jemisin, who I adore. And I try to, when I'm developing my feminism, I try to take keys from non-white women most of all, because they give me a perspective that I just simply can't access without listening to people who have diverse forms of oppression. So, yeah, I think that because there's so much disagreement about feminism within feminism, we're not including TERFs. TERFs don't count as feminists. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's a trans-exclusionary radical feminist. They don't count. But I think that because someone who doesn't belong to a group can best usually define the privileges of that group and what it like. Black people are best able to describe what whiteness is. White people can't really usually. So I think that if we were going to have a female manifesto, it would need to come from not a white woman. So that's just my thinking.
So you don't get to speak up for that?
I don't get to speak up for Black women.
Do you find, though, that, I don't know, the center/right always tries to create kind of a straw man version of anything and say, this represents the whole thing? Like, they got to find a bad version of feminism and go, okay, that represents the whole thing, therefore it's bad, needs to be thrown away.
Yeah, I think so. And that's honestly because any kind of progressive movement does not ally with the center. The compromise between slavery and not slavery is just a little bit of slavery. The compromise between police brutality and
right.
Yeah, and not good. The compromise between not police brutality and police brutality is some police brutality, and the compromise between women's liberation and not liberation is just a little bit of owning women, just a little bit of just a little bit of it, or maybe like half and half, right? So the thing is that if they steel man any of these positions, it's going to work against the rest of their interests. Like, they can't steel man any of these positions, so they will discredit the whole, which ends up serving the purpose of capitulating to the far right. They better ally with the far right. They can sit there and say that they don't hate gays, but when the gay rights movement says trans people are people, the LGBTQ movement says trans people are people, that threatens masculine dominance just a little bit too much. And their compromise is, mostly masculine dominance. Not like all masculine dominance. Like, I want women to be sluts. I don't want the Handmaid's Tale. But they end up allying far more with the Handmaid's Tale. So I think that's why they have to, by essence, they have to find the worst. Because if they tried to even find a compromise with the left at all, it moves it left at all, and they can't do that.
Yeah, I was wondering, because I can't remember what it was that kind of allowed Fox News to take over. Like, there was a rule with like news that you had to be even-handed.
Yeah, but
it seems like on the left there's always this attempt to be even-handed and say, well, both sides are kind of trouble. And then when it comes to the right or the center, people pretend to be in the center, which is just kind of like just left of Hitler. It's just, nope, sorry, this is how everything is. And
well, see, as the Overton window shifts, right, our center becomes whatever is the center of what we see. If people are not aware of the Overton window, it's the broad spectrum of political positions, the entire thing. So, we could have just the very far communism over here, which to the left. This is my left. I don't think it is for people who can see me. So to my left.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, so
Stage
to the far left. To the far left.
Don't do YMCA. It won't look right.
So to the far left, you're going to have communism, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but I don't think we actually know what communism would look like, and I don't think it's achievable in the near future. But so you have communism over here, and you have fascism over here on the far right. And the Overton window says that within any given society, you can only really have a political spectrum on a level of that. So when everything moves to the far right, the center is to the right. Now, if they say ally with pro-life, that's going to move everything more to the right, and the center stays here. And now the center is even further right. It's the fallacy of the center. There is no real center in politics as far as I've been able to determine. And I don't think we've ever seen a true leftist country. We see some really much closer to the left, more close to what I guess would be a true political spectrum or center in your Scandinavian countries. I don't think we've actually achieved what the left actually looks like even close yet.
Yeah, it does seem in the past 50 years in America, weird that Lyndon Johnson was like our lefty president, but like every Democrat who becomes president tries to compromise, and every Republican's like, no, fuck it, I'm going my way. And half the time, they don't even win like the majority vote. I mean, we have George W. Bush in 2000, and then we have the whole Trump phenomenon. It's like you pretend you have it, even though you didn't really earn it, and there might be something to be learned from that. But it's still kind of expensive.
Well, they don't care. They okay. So our current political right is authoritarian. It's this law and order. Blue Lives Matter. You stand for the fucking flag. You ungrateful Negro. I'm using that ironically. If anyone wasn't sure, I was using it ironically. Like you're not stepping in line with what I believe should be human existence. And they will claim that that's on the left because some attempts at communism kind of did do that. But progressivism, at least in the current sense, is more about individual liberty with collective action. And so, unfortunately, as things have moved more and more left, we're seeing more and more authoritarian takeover. In my opinion, the best, most centrist Republican is an authoritarian, and at the worst, they're fascists right now. Literal fascists. They haven't instituted true fascism yet, but they are fascists.
I was wondering because in the past 24 hours, John McCain died. If you're listening to this in the future, during the recording of this show, John McCain died in the last 24 hours. And it's been very interesting to see people go, well, he was trying to be on both sides because he once defended Obama against someone who was terrible.
He defended someone calling him a Muslim by saying, no, he's a good man. I don't know if people know this, but there's good people who are Muslims. That's a true thing. That's a true thing. Atheists, I'm looking at you.
It's hard to believe.
Hold on. Cat's trying to take my headphones.
I saw that. I'm like, no. Cat's like, hey, I'm taking this and running.
Yeah. He got caught on his foot as he jumped.
Too damn long. But he was the guy who did the song "Bomb, Bomb, Bomb, Iran." It's just John McCain wasn't cool. He actively opposed women's rights to bodily autonomy. He was a supporter of heavier policing, and so more police brutality, more prison school to prison pipeline for people of color, and higher incarcerations of people of color. Over policing is a real problem. And he supported over policing. He supported brutal ways of dealing with justice that I don't think work. And I don't think, work is the one. They don't work. And I don't think that they make us better as people. I think they make us worse. He didn't really care about that. He cared about ensuring his own power and his own wealth. Fine. He voted with Collins and Murkowski to not repeal the ACA, but he wasn't really that great because he kind of also voted to let the debate happen and almost got it repealed anyway. I haven't seen anything that he's done that really deserves my respect. I'm not dancing on the guy's grave. He's certainly not the worst, but he's definitely an authoritarian, conservative dickbag who looked out for himself, and I don't really care that he's dead. Sorry, that's cruel. I know it's cruel. It's not. It's not nearly as cruel as anything he did. In the current system we're in, it's like, his family stopped his treatment and he died a day later because he had brain cancer. It's like, yeah, you're in Congress. You have really, really good health care, so you can choose that. There are a lot of people who are doing GoFundMes for very basic health issues in this country, and that's something that
diabetes they were born with.
It is a crisis.
Yeah, that's just it, is that he had access to great health care and has consistently threatened people's access to health care, and he absolutely propped up a system. The ACA supported privatized health care because he opposed any sort of public healthcare option. He has made it harder and harder for people who are not wealthy white men. Well, he hasn't really hurt wealthy white women either because they can just get abortions and they don't care. But his policies have been really quite harmful. And I don't care if he seemed like a nice guy. To quote BoJack Horseman, I don't really believe in a deep down. I really only think you are what you do. So that's kind of my opinion. Maybe that's extremist, but I'm going to go back to Bell Hooks, black philosopher, black woman philosopher from the United States. And she talks about love not being a feeling that you have, but the actions that you embody. The most important thing in being in love isn't that you feel these things, it's how you approach the relationship and what you do to be in love. And I feel like that applies to everything else we do. It doesn't matter if you feel like a loving person, if you're not behaving in a loving way to society, if you're not behaving in a beneficial way for society, if you're not actively working for the betterment of most people, but for the betterment of a few, I don't care if you're nice about it. And I don't think he was that nice about it. So, like,
yeah, it's just the be civil, but only if you're on the left kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I really do think if you're in public office, you're supposed to be supporting the greater good.
I agree.
It seems like people go into office just to get rich. Like
Some do.
Richer, because usually when someone runs for office, and then if someone's a bartender from Queens, oh shit, don't ask her about socialism because then we're in trouble. But
yeah, I love her. She's amazing.
It's like all these questions about, like, anytime you ask like anybody in Congress about like the internet and how it works, you're like, oh shit, these people are 80 years old. So I mean, I don't know. Is Orrin Hatch actually representing you? Because I don't remember.
Yep. Okay. He's my senator.
I live in Georgia. I have some pretty bad people representing me. So
oh God, but Orrin Hatch, he's a monster.
All of a sudden, he's like, Trump's cool.
Oh, he was always fighting with Trump. He's always been a hardcore capitalist, like betrays the people, does not even vote in line with what Utahns as a majority want. He does this constantly, but he's a Mormon, and the church here has such dominance that like the membership can't, by and large, vote against it without there being some real shit coming down from the top. I mean, they are threatening these people's eternal lives with these politics. And what we expect people to make like rational choices, to vote for things that are actually in their interest when their eternal life is on the line. They're not going to do it. Oh, I have so much to say about Orrin Hatch. Oh, I hate him so much.
But
I hate him as much as I hate Trump, I think.
So you're in the state of Utah, but you are not affiliated even in the past with the Mormon Church, right?
No. I was born and raised a Catholic from a super Democrat family.
So have you kind of split with them on religion? Are they still there?
My family?
Yeah.
Nobody in my family is religious anymore. My mom doesn't believe in God, but she doesn't want to call herself an atheist because she thinks atheists are kind of assholes, and she's not entirely wrong.
Yeah, and it's like,
but she doesn't believe in God.
The voice goes up, you're like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's fair. She doesn't believe in God. My dad no longer considers himself a Catholic. He does still believe in God, but even when I was a Catholic, he told me God wasn't a man so much as energy. So, I mean, they were kind of hippie parents. Yeah. No, I always had a pretty liberal upbringing. My parents had their own kind of interpretations of God and religion, and it was really quite liberal in the small L liberty kind of way, right? And when I became an atheist, nobody cared. All my siblings now, I have siblings from, my parents are divorced, so there's siblings from both marriages, and all four of us are atheists. It just, it just kind of, religion was never something that my family held as like a value. I've been really fortunate, honestly, that I get way more emotional support, and I get the kind of family that really accepts you for what you are. When I was talking about being bi recently with my mom, she laughed and she went, "I had a feeling you'd be bi when you were a kid." So, yeah, no, I've been super lucky. My family's really accepting. I as long as I don't do anything, really, really terrible, I think my family would accept me till the end of time. I mean, I have to do something really terrible for them to not.
Well, what is the kind of local atheist community like where you are? Like you mentioned Sunday assembly, like
Yeah,
you're really into that. What's it like to go to those services, as we say?
The congregation. It is a congregation. It's lovely. So I love singing in groups. I always have, and it was something I really missed as an atheist. Was not being able to go to church and sing in groups. I always felt really connected, and there's actual evidence about this. Like singing in a group actually makes you feel more connected to the group, and it makes you feel more part of a thing. And humans, there's a really interesting new theory of mind out there related to Philosophy Tube does a great one on this, related to humans and our social interactions, that we are not, in fact, a single mind. We're not like an insect hive mind either. It's a completely new theory of mind where we are so social that interacting is almost a necessary part of us. And there's people who are going to be like, "Oh, not for me. I don't believe it. I think once a month you can make time." And it'll do you a lot of good. So I get to sing with people. Then we usually play a game of some sort really fast. We did philosophical speed dating where they'd have a card and then we would why are we here? And then we would have to talk about it. And in philosophy, there's no wrong answer really. Well, there is, but oftentimes you can't agree on a consensus anyway. But so we played that. We've done Dutch clapping, which is really silly. You can look it up. So instead of like the Catholics doing "peace be with you" and also with you, we do like big thumb wars. So you touch another person, you talk to people, you get to know people, you sing songs. Then my favorite part is community share, where somebody in the congregation gets up and shares something important to them. The last one, again, it's only once a month. So I'm like, I'm not waking up every week for this. But the last one, one of our congregants was the matron of honor, and she'd never really spoken in front of people. So she wanted to practice her speech. And I thought that was wonderful. Like, that's what we should be doing for people, is like giving them a space to do these things and explore these parts of themselves and be vulnerable with other human beings where they're safe. And so I love it. I absolutely love it. I learned something new. I learned about new volunteer opportunities. I get to see people that I really care about. My very best friend in the whole wide world is on the board. So she'll come over every service and like hug me and we'll sing a song together. It's really great. Like, so, I mean, I don't do a ton with Sunday Assembly. I just kind of go and I help out with a few things here and there, but I think it's really special for people who have been looking for a way to have community, especially people who are struggling socially. This is a really great way for you to start building up community and having a safe place to explore social interaction where you don't have to be good at it. You just don't have to be good at social interaction to be welcome there. I think it's fantastic. If you don't have a local Sunday Assembly, please start one. They're great.
Yeah, there's one in Atlanta, and actually I don't know if it was the international one. They did one in Atlanta, and I actually showed up. That was pretty cool because, yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
It was a British thing, and it came over here.
Uh-huh. It was started by two
British stuff in America. It's okay. It's all right.
Well, they wanted us to steal it. They wanted us to do it too. It was two British atheist comedians who missed church, and then I'll go and do the farmers market with my friend, and we'll be like, "We're not a cult, but that's what we'd say if we were one." And that's from the advertising of from Sunday Assembly, from the original one, is, "We're not a cult, but that's exactly what we'd say if we were one."
Now, are you still involved in Atheists of Utah? I heard you were on Godless Revolution, but it was from the time that Trump was still pre-president.
Yeah.
It was a little harder to do.
Yeah, I parted ways with Atheists of Utah.
Aw, but the gala sounded fun. Her gala. You
I
even
think they're both
discussed how it's hard
correct.
to pronounce that word. Yeah.
Yeah, gala, gala.
It's gala.
I prefer gala. I prefer everything a little more gay. No, the gala was fabulous. It was a lot of fun. It was a really good time. One of my favorite pictures with me and my best friend came from that. That was a good time, but all right. There started to be some pretty real disagreements with how I thought we needed to do community building and how the rest of the board wanted to do community building. And I started to feel less and less welcome. And so I resigned. Like that's my feelings on the subject. That's not indicting anyone in particular. It's just the way I felt.
Well, I know like atheist community is relatively small, but there are like 40,000 different denominations of Christian. So can't there be all these different atheist groups? And every once in a while, if we all get together for an important issue, we can we'll see about that. But I mean, it's like, hey, this group isn't for me. There's another group. Like, you go to the Sunday Assembly. Okay, the Atheists of Utah, maybe not your thing.
Yeah. See, Sunday Assembly, we're starting a going out group, so like we will still get together and have drinks and stuff. But our overarching purpose is really quite clear, I think. Live better, help often, wonder more. Like, I feel like those are really wonderful things that Sunday Assembly can live up to, and community building can take a lot of forms within that. I feel like it's really hard to do community building. I feel like it's really complex, and you need to be really clear in your purpose and what you're doing. Otherwise, it is too broad. You say there should be lots of different denominations of atheist, just like there is Christian, but there's some denominations of Christian that want nothing to do with other Christians. Most of them won't even touch the Westboro Baptist Church, for instance. Mm-hmm. Same thing for me with certain atheists. There is a lot of in the neo-fascism, American fascism, we're seeing there's a huge atheist contingent. There's a lot of misogyny and center lords. There's a lot of exclusionary people for people of color. And I find that I can't peacefully interact with them. Because if I am interacting with them in a friendly way, I am giving credence to their politics, and their politics is really deeply dangerous. And I can't be nice to them. And that means in an organization like Atheists of Utah, where there's not a clear purpose and there's not a clear direction for how they're going to build that community, there was a lot of toxicity I found, and I couldn't support that. And I wanted to change. I wanted us to focus in on what our purpose was and be more centered on activism. The board disagreed with that, and I left. So that's kind of where that lies, I guess. It's hard to be a woman in atheist in the atheist movement. It's hard to be a woman atheist activist. We've seen that a lot, like a lot.
Yeah, I definitely don't blame you for that, because often it becomes, hey, can you be in the middle? But then it's like between trans people being recognized as human beings and not. Mm-hmm. Like there isn't any center.
No, there's not a center. The center is that they're only partially.
Like there can't be a middle ground all the time.
I was talking about this a little bit earlier when I said, like the compromise between police brutality and not police brutality is some police brutality, which is still just police brutality. The compromise between trans people being whole humans and not being whole humans is they're not completely whole humans, which means they're not whole humans. It always capitulates to the right. It always does. And I can't be a part of that. I just can't do it, and I can't play nice. I just can't. I don't know what to tell people.
Yeah.
Like when my own autonomy is at question, and my own capabilities and personhood as just a white woman, cis white woman, is already threatened enough. I can't imagine how exclusionary it feels to be a non-white person trying to be an atheist. My best friend could tell you a lot more about being a non-white woman and trying to be an atheist. So,
yeah, it was like when Trump was running for president and Bill Maher was like, well, trans rights are kind of a boutique issue. I'm like, not for trans people. I mean,
exactly.
I can't even imagine. It's like, oh, sorry, your existence is kind of secondary to us.
Yeah, your existence,
who do you go with?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, it's just like you can't even deal. Now,
I don't like Bill Maher.
Unfortunately, I didn't ask you this in advance, so it's up to you if you can do it, but I have a backup in case this doesn't work. Do you have a joke that you could share?
A joke that I could share? Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. How come there's no vampires in Africa?
How come?
Because somebody already blessed the rains down in Africa.
I feel like a Toto song was going to happen, which is totally cool. Okay, so as a singer, I had Mandisa Thomas, actually. She sang instead of doing a joke last week.
Oh, yeah?
She did both. Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
I do.
And
Don't Stop Believing by Journey. Yep. It's right. It's in my range, and everyone knows it, and so it gets the whole room going. It's a lot of fun.
It's perfect. And do you have a favorite Utah brewery?
Ooh, the other Utah breweries aren't going to love that I say this. Because they're kind of dicks to the other Utah breweries, and they're moving away anyway. Yeah, they're kind of dicks, but they make a lot of my favorite beers. It's Epic Brewery.
They're moving?
They're moving to Colorado.
Oh, I don't blame them there. Because Big Bad Baptist is one of theirs, right?
Oh, Big Bad Baptist Voodoo Stout. I love that beer. So good. So good. But the other breweries are really, we're really quite spoiled with some really great breweries out here. You went to Salt Lake Brewing. They do a real nice job. They really do. So I don't want to say like Epic is so much better than them. I really think that we're really lucky with some really excellent breweries out here. It's fabulous. And then we've got some distilleries that are still getting up and going. I'm not a big fan of High West as they are right now. But the thing about whiskey is that you kind of have to have it aged off-site, or you have to have it made off-site and then you age it on-site. And they're currently working on their own batch, right? And it takes like 10 years to get a good batch of whiskey to market. So that's kind of the nature of whiskey brewing, is that they have to like go with a big brewer and then just like age it in their own barrels. But High West is getting going. We've got a Five Wives vodka, but vodka gives me headaches, so I don't know. But we are spoiled with breweries. We have some really fantastic brewers here.
Yeah, I feel like that's universal because there's like 40 or 45 in the state of Georgia, and it's great, and you constantly hear about it. So where can people find you? And of course, Utah Outcasts.
Yeah.
Any links will be in the show notes.
Yeah, I probably won't add you on Facebook unless you message me, and then even then I might still not. It's unfortunate, but I've been sexually harassed way too many times. It's just kind of had to become a policy of mine. So Twitter, you can find me at Felicia Entwistle, but no E on the end. I ran out of characters and I wasn't thinking about it when I made it. So I'm on Instagram as Felicia Stormborn. So yeah, back to our Game of Thrones reference there.
Exactly. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Gosh, how many months till April? And that's at the earliest.
Oh, I'm dying. But I need to know what happens.
When it comes to Game of Thrones, is it worse because like we're all anticipating the final season, but once it's over, I know there's all these prequel whatevers, but what are we going to do?
I don't know. Rewatch it a bunch, I guess.
I feel like
you know what? We survived.
I rewatched the whole thing before, yeah.
We survived the end of Harry Potter. We survived this too.
We'll survive this too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Felicia, for being on, and show notes for all links, people. So
Well,
check them out.
thank you so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad it worked out.
Me too. Sorry about all the technical issues. Ugh.
Yeah, technical issues happen. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, we podcasters know what that's about.
Correct.
All right. We'll see ya.
I bet my Wookie.
Live read. I do another YouTube crossover this week as my episode of the week features Kevin Logan, who makes his YouTube channel so easy to remember and spell, has on fellow former Zachrilege cast guest Ina of the Plate Conversations show, who talks about what happens when Sam Harris bots go after you for saying things that Sam Harris said. Do check it out. I do want to rant a bit, and it's hard to show the proper tone when you're a white man and you're going to talk about how the conservative, whatever the conservative word for media is now, treats a white female victim. Molly Tibbetts was going for a run and was murdered by a man who couldn't take no for an answer. That could have been it for the story, much like our mass shooting of the day, but no, the conservasphere hit this one hard. I loved the example that a friend threw on my Twitter timeline from our least favorite bigot, Milo. When Molly's body was discovered and the killer was widely known as an illegal immigrant, which has been debunked, Milo bit his tongue or sucked on a lemon or said Beetlejuice into a mirror 3 times. Whatever it is he has to do to pretend to be a normal human being, and expressed sympathy for the poor, young, white woman. 3 days later, when Molly's social media posts turned out to be something I might be into, attacking poor Milo's best friend, Donald Trump, Milo simply said, "Enjoy hell, Molly." Because if people like Milo, people like Candace Owens, if people like Charlie Kirk believe in anything, it's not the suffering of a woman who is discarded and thrown away in life. It's getting that cultural war big fat victory and, more importantly, check. All the fucking size. This week, Corey Johnston released the Brainstorm podcast interview with me, and he didn't wait a whole season of the year to post it, so thank you, Corey, for having me on. Almost forgot I did that. Want to support this show? Be like Bobby Hugh, Teody, Larry, Daryl, or the other Daryl, and support the show on patreon.com/Zachrilege, ZACHRILEGE. Follow me on Twitter at Zachrilege, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, send all love, hate, whatever mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thank you to Felicia for being on tonight. Don't be an outcast, y'all. Be an incast.